Hey everyone, it's Jer. A quick heads up that the next 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a 3-day-a-week schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's to give me a little bit of a break for my birthday weekend, but still put content out there. I know that people really do not resonate with repeat episodes, so instead we're going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the next 2 weeks, and then back to our normal schedule. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for listening. Thanks to our members at patreon.com/dailydetroit, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Monday, July 31st, 2023. As you can tell, we're not in the studio. We're actually at Comerica Park after a victory by Sevilla FC 2-1 over Crystal Palace in sudden death penalty kicks. We've got a fun, packed show for you today, and joining me to make it happen is
Fletcher Sharpe
and
Norris Howard.
How lucky it is to have all of us together, like in person, although I think we're standing on a street corner on Montcalm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the studio. It's a lot more spacious, but also, you know, there are people who are very excited to see some players, so, you know, you got to deal with them as well.
It adds a little bit of ambiance in the background. I will say that, because you know what? And that leads me right to the first thing. Detroit came out for international soccer tonight. More than 21,000 fans here at Comerica Park. I think this exceeds both of our expectations, right, Norris?
Yeah, I mean, I said that if they got 15,000, that it would be a rousing success. They were able to top that, and I think that's fantastic. And the match on display was pretty decent, but the crowd actually really got into it. We got a lot of Crystal Palace supporters here to come out in Southeast Michigan, so they led to a lot of the ambiance being really top-notch. We got a chance to actually talk to Crystal Palace manager Roy Hodgson, and he said that he was thoroughly impressed with the atmosphere here in Detroit, and that it exceeded all of their expectations. And so I was excited to see the level of play that would be on display. I was happy to see that both teams took it rather seriously, and we ended up seeing a sudden death penalty shootout, which I will say I'll be happy if I never get to see that again.
Yeah, that's not the way to end a soccer game. I get it that it's a friendly, and we're going to do what we do because it's a friendly, but it was not my favorite way to end a game.
Yeah, I know when Eze scored his goal, the whole stadium went like, ooh. When the game ended in a sudden death PK, the whole stadium just went like, huh? Like, what? Some people even booed a bit, and I'm like, I understand. Can you imagine if a World Cup game ended on a sudden death peak? The stadium would explode. They'd be like, no. More kicks, please. And, like, I understand entirely because, you know, the part of PKs that make it great but also make you hate it is, like, the anxiety of what's going to happen next. You miss one PK and you're like, all right, go shake hands.
No,
what?
No drama. It was no drama, which, by the way, you know, just speaking very quickly about the game, both goals that were scored in open play were fantastic today. And if you get a chance to go take a look at them. But some of the best goals I've seen in a friendly in person from teams of this caliber. But I think people were really, really resonant to that. The crowd was singing. There was flags. I saw a couple beach balls, which is always a good sign. So I thought, all in all, it was a great evening for soccer here in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It's three keywords.
Yeah, I mean, Roy Hodgson said it. Jose Luis Mendilibar said the same for Sevilla, where they're like, they didn't know what to expect with the atmosphere, and just seeing the number of people that came out and the atmosphere in the stadium that they had was something they've not experienced, whether it's in their respective countries or even in Europe just in general. And, like, that's a good thing to hear if you live in the city and you're a native Detroiter, to hear that, like, somewhere you have these people who've been all around the world are fascinated by your city that you see every single day. They're like, wow, this is something new and different. It makes you feel somewhat good just to hear that, you know, in your own stone cold heart.
Now, I'm going to flag something here for the non-soccer fans or the newer soccer fans. The American stadium experience is so very different than the English stadium experience, even in the Premier League, which is their top league.
Yeah, perfect example of that. A few years back, Manchester United and Real Madrid came to play another similar game like this. They played it at the Big House in Ann Arbor. And I was talking to one of the coaches after the game, and they're like, we've never played in front of this many fans before. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, there's 110,000 people in here. And I was like, yeah, and? Like, that's every Michigan Saturday. To look up, even Cristiano Ronaldo, who played for Real Madrid at the time, at the time, the most people he played in front of was only 70,000. And I'm like, that's insane to think about, that like the largest crowd in the history of an American soccer game. I was there sweating all of my hair out, but sweating myself through there with a bunch of other people who just were experiencing the game. I mean, he wasn't even supposed to play in that game. And he's like, there's too many fans for me not to play. I'm going out there now. So just to see that it wasn't as many people this time around, but just to see how many people really got engaged and really cared, and the fans who really, really wanted to see their team win. And even like you said, the goals, Rakitic had a nice volley. Eze had a great dribble that he scored on, and just the goals made the whole stadium just go wow and ooh, and those are the best noises to hear at a sporting event.
Now, I know Sevilla FC is a Europa League champion, but in general, these two teams are not necessarily the best in their respective leagues, but the play was crisp, it was fast, it was a little different than what we were used to seeing.
Yeah, if you are a fan of the MLS or the USL, this was even on a whole different level. Even for a preseason friendly, it was a fantastic match. It was full of physicality and intensity. We got to talk to the Sevilla manager about that, and he was saying essentially we're 2 weeks away from the season for us, so we need to be playing matches at full speed. And that's essentially what you saw. You saw some hard tackles. You saw games that were being played at breakneck pace at some point, at some phases of the game. And I think it all worked out, and it made for a more entertaining match, whereas sometimes friendlies can feel like slogs.
I mean, heck, even to build off that point, one of the players for Sevilla took an intentional yellow card to stop a play and ended up getting a red card. You don't really see that in friendlies. Like, you don't see them saying, okay, like, well, he's just going to go, it's fine, whatever. This guy's like, I know this game doesn't matter. I know it's just for a cup that we have here. But, like, we're not going to I'll take another yellow just to make sure you don't score a goal. And, like, to see the intensity just from that alone lets you know, like, they wanted to come here and win. It wasn't just about coming here, getting a nice experience and leaving. It's like, we want to come here, get a nice experience and leave with this cup on our bus on the way to the plane.
Yeah, the Motor City Cup, just so you know.
Yeah, and just to cap it all off, like, we're here just outside of the stadium, and there's, like, you know, kids, 19, 20-year-old kids standing out here taking their shirts off and trying to get them signed, and, trying to see the players on the team bus. The stuff that you would see that you're used to seeing in the European game, you're used to seeing that happen in Europe. We're seeing that happen in America, but also in Detroit. It's really refreshing and really cool to see for this sport that is not necessarily the number one sport in the country, but to know that this many people are passionate about it. I think it was eye-opening for a lot of these I don't want to say club managers, but the front offices of a lot of these clubs, and I think you're going to see stuff happening in the States a lot more from the big European powers.
Oh, and I think it would be great to see more friendlies come through for Detroit City FC. We'll see if that is in the cards for later, because what this tells me is, among other things, the sky is the limit for soccer in Metro Detroit. It is a big deal, and I know sometimes I hear it from the feedback where it's like, why are you guys talking about soccer, all the other stuff? But then there's also a large contingent of people who just absolutely love this game here, and it's been kind of crazy the last few years.
Definitely. I mean, it's exploded. I know when 12, 13 years ago, Detroit City FC kind of entered into the realm. The Michigan Bucks were something. Now they're the Flint City Bucks. And it's like there's maybe only 2 or 3 teams in this area that have a team. And then you go 3-4 years later, and now you got Detroit, you have Ann Arbor, you have Lansing, you have Grand Rapids, you have Muskegon, you have Livonia. It's like, this is nuts. And even now, like, there's a Michigan-only league where just there are teams in all different parts of Michigan playing against each other. And, like, no, it's not professional. No, probably not even semi-pro in the level of that. But it's just the fact that, like, you have these territorial areas of people saying, we are Livonia City, we are Grand Haven, we are Frankenmuth, and it's just to see these teams come out and say, we are for our city. Yes, we might have to go back to college, yes, we do something else, but like for this 12, 13, 15 game season, we wear this on our chest and we care about it. And just, it's refreshing to see that happen here. Obviously, it's not on the same scale as, like, say, Europe, or even, Africa, Japan, etc. But, like, people in these areas, they care. And, like, to see the care at the small level can only grow into a much larger level.
Oh, 100%. I see everything you're saying about the clubs, but I want to add something else to the mix. One thing I feel like I take away from this that I think could be utilized more at Detroit City, at Keyworth, and other places, is the idea of leaning on those player personalities. Even these players that some of us, like for me, I hadn't heard of a bunch of these guys, right? Because I follow soccer, but like La Liga is not my jam. the energy around them, like, to me, I'm sitting here going, why aren't there banners with, like, Dario Suarez and Maxi Rodriguez at either side of the gate at Keyworth? You know, like those big banners you see at the car wash or at the racetrack, like with their face on them and the number. Like, I feel like there's a huge missed opportunity in individual player branding, buying the jerseys, doing all this stuff, the meet and greets. Like, I think that visible branding matters. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of why Louisville and Tampa Bay are where they are, is because their players come out and it's like, Owen Wilson has his own jersey. He has his own banner. Cam Lancaster the same. Brian Ownby the same. In Tampa Bay, all the players the same. In Phoenix Rising, the same. San Antonio, all the players there. Mitchell Tainter's a center back, and people are like, I know Mitchell Tainter, he does this and this. He should be MVP because he coaches my kid's team. And it's like, yeah, they're all, you know who they are. And I understand for those situations versus now, there are some other major markets that Detroit has some of those places don't have. So I understand why that might not be the case, but like still making a chance and like letting these players get banners up and doing something is way more important. I think, to your point, it builds brand awareness, it builds facial awareness for the players, and it allows you to bring in some extra money because people then want to say, instead of buying the regular DCFC kit, I want the Maxi Rodriguez kit, or I want the Azid Matthews, or the Dario Suarez, or the Nate Steinwasser. Like, how much money they could make extra just selling Nate's kit, just with his own, not even a custom one, just Nate Stein. People want that. People want to wear that around. Kids want to wear that and show it off to their friends. So, like, I think there's, like you said, some lost money there that they could easily find and, you know, use it to maybe help sign, you know, an outside back or something.
Norris, I know you have some thoughts on this from a marketing standpoint, like a marketing and media standpoint.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think Fletcher actually put it very succinctly, but to just time to take it to the next level, it's not even so much about kids and getting them to buy more jerseys, but also that helps you elevate the brand. When we think about what's happening with Lionel Messi and what's happening with Inter Miami, let's just be honest here. Almost nobody in America from a sporting standpoint cared about Inter Miami outside of Miami. That is not a franchise that was carrying the weight of the MLS as opposed to, say, LAFC or, you know, Portland Timbers or Seattle Sounders or anything like that. But you add the element of Messi, and let's put him obviously in a vacuum. He's the, you know, greatest player probably of all time. But you bring in a name and you bring in that type of person, and you see what the type of avenues that it opens up for the entire league, not just Inter Miami. On a smaller scale, that's something that can be done for Detroit City FC, and many of the USL teams or even smaller market MLS teams is leaning into these personalities, leaning into these faces and these names to where people can begin to humanize these franchises, because these logos mean nothing to most of these people, right? When you're talking about Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, these are teams that have been around for upwards of 150 years. You cannot try to replicate that experience in a decade or two or 50, right? You have to be able to lean on something else, and the only thing that's going to be able to jumpstart that is the personality-driven sort of model of sports merchandising, basically.
You should be at least able to recognize who someone is in front of you, just as like say, oh, this is the starting left back for Louisville, or this is someone else. So just to see, hopefully they can get to that point where they're starting to get their own players' faces out there so they can actually become this player for this team and not just a member of this team.
Last point on this, when you look at what the Pistons have been able to do since their move from Auburn Hills to Detroit, this is case in point of what some of these teams should be doing, because they're bringing in young talent. They're getting them introduced immediately to the culture of the city, immediately to the populace, immediately ingratiating them into what it means to play for and live in Detroit. And that is something that every sports franchise could possibly do.
And to show, just even to that build on that point, like the Pistons aren't good right now. Like we're not gonna like lie and be like, oh, they're on the come up for sure, but they are not good right now. But the fact is, people are so excited to watch a draft pick come out and put on buffs, or just come out there and go to St. Cecilia and play basketball, or to come out there and just go to one of these public schools and just help kids out. Like, people are excited about the Pistons. Probably of all the sports teams, maybe save for the Lions, who just have fans who just will love them forever. like people are like the Pistons are on the come up, and it's like they're not, but like we'll say that because like they have young stars who people actually want to see grow, and like it's because you know who they are, you know who this person is, you know Asar Thompson, you know Jaden Ivey, you know Cade Cunningham, and obviously the sport is played without a helmet or anything, so you can see their face, but even still, like they're out in the world and people stop like, I know who that is. People don't even watch sports, are like, I know who that guy is. So just you want to see them get to the level of like these people actually exist as their own entities, not just like as someone who wears this jersey for a few hours.
Vessels for your logo.
Let's talk about a player move and then the match over the weekend. Vincenzo Candela is no longer a Detroit City FC member, and I can't say I'm surprised by this because we haven't seen anything of him in recent times, and it makes me think about the players now, especially now that we're locked in with this 11. I think if you're not on this 11 and you want to get minutes, I think Vincenzo looked at this and went, you know what, I'm going to get myself out of here and find somewhere that will play me.
Yeah, not to like build on the messiness of stuff, but like I literally put out a tweet where I was like, hey, you figured that they would need someone like this because they're having midfield depth issues with injuries and other things, and like it's kind of weird to see they didn't get any playing time. And I posted it, came back like a few hours later, and it's like, this tweet was liked. It's like by Vincenzo Candela himself, and I'm like, yikes. But also to your point, it builds. It's like, yeah, if you're not in the starting 11 they have that's actually building some momentum, that's got them winning games, getting points, if you're not in this and you don't fit into the thing, like maybe you should try to go somewhere else. Cy Goddard realized that, and he unfortunately had to go. Vincenzo Candela did. There's a few players I have in my mind I'm not going to say out loud yet, but I think probably you're going to be realizing this really soon. If they signed a 2-year contract, yikes. If they signed a 1-year one, maybe it's time to be like, I'll avoid the rest of it so I can go play somewhere else because I'm not playing right now. And like it can still shift. Like I know Richard Ballard earlier in the year was not playing very much. Really talented player. Shift to this formation, Richard Ballard is now being the star player on the wing, as we expected him to be, because he's a very shifty, very good player. But just, yeah, it's a little disappointing. You don't want to see players leave in positions that you actually need them to stay at. Did Trevor really feel like he needed him because he never played him? I mean, sometimes you kind of just bogart players at a position to be like, in case someone gets hurt, to play. But it was kind of interesting that he trusted Dom Gasso, uber talented, but also 19, over a guy who's been playing in the USL spine, whether it's Championship or League One, for many years. That's kind of weird. He was having a good year for Richmond Kickers, and you're like, we'll take him for us instead. And now Vincenzo has, to find a way to get on a different team, and Detroit has to move forward with one less player.
I think the thing for me also is that you also don't want to have a player leave really in that way. You tend to want to try to get something for a player, and I just feel like this is another one of those situations where you have this 11 that is gaining some momentum and you've frozen out a player, but obviously I'm not keen to a lot of the front office dealings and what the talk in the locker room is. The only point of disappointment I have is that we weren't able to then get something for him. If you know that you got a player on the fringes of the squad that may be looking to move away or is showing some signs of frustration, at least try to get something for that player rather than just a clean break, because for me, that just makes everybody feel like they wasted their time, and I just think that's a bad way of doing business, especially when you're here in the USL and, good players come at a premium.
I kind of tongue-in-cheekily labeled the episode last week Dario Suarez City FC, and some people got a little upset at me for it, but I want to call it right here. And you know what, you weren't going to say this, Fletcher, but me and Norris, we're about to surprise you, aren't we?
Yep, 1,000%, because you were right. You called this, and you need to stand on it, Fletcher, because you months ago said, hey, why don't we sign Dario Suarez? And people got mad at you.
Because people sent poop emojis to my email inbox, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I got a lot of people who were like, well, why are you so stuck on this guy who used to play against Detroit? Whatever. So he came, I'm like, I don't need to say much. I obviously was right about it. You see that he's affecting the game in a positive manner. People don't call me Fletcher Nostradamus for no reason, but like at this point, just let him get out there and play ball, and that's all I can really do at this point.
I'm going to piggyback on this, and I'm going to say one of my first appearances here on Daily Detroit, I said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if Detroit City FC had creative players in the midfield that could unleash the attack, and maybe somebody would just try to take a shot because they had confidence. Wow, what a guy.
You bring on a Cuban international player who's like scored an international goal, and like, yeah, stuff like that will happen because And again, not even just his skill, but the one thing we've talked about a few times, but something I really love about him, the game where they tied 1-1, everyone was like, yeah, we played hard. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to tie any more games. These need to be wins. And I'm like, yeah. He scored a goal. He scored a goal of the year candidate. He had a chance to have a bicycle kick to win the game, and he's mad. That's the guy who should be happy. Player of the game, and he's in the player of the game picture like, okay, I'm here, but also we should win the game next time. And I'm like, that's someone I want on my team. I'll take 11 of those because that's someone who, like, they want to get their teammates better, but they want to make sure they're all going forward together. It's not just one guy, it's everyone together.
Oakland Roots, a draw. First half really energetic, second half kind of whatever. I mean, considering the legs that they were playing on, I would have liked to see a win. I feel like we've got to do a lot of wins in a tough schedule to have any shot at the playoffs. Thoughts, guys?
I mean, I listened to the interview from Oakland's coach, and he was like, honestly, yeah, at the end it felt like both teams didn't really want to, He's like, we had tire legs. Detroit's kind of more defensive team. At the end, both of us seemed like we didn't really want to go out there and push too far forward and then get hit with a counterattack, as we both want to do. So, I mean, I understand why it's one. He's like, we'll be happy with 1 point versus none. I'm sure Detroit will be as well. But, like, there are some moments where Paul Blanchett, the nickname Wall Blanchett, human octopus, 6'4", making all these crazy saves. But I will say this. Well, he made a bunch of saves, obviously the player of the game. There were, like, two of those that, like, despite how tall he is, should have gone in. Like, Reese Williams had one that came to mind where the ball bounced him, and he's like, instead of just mashing it back towards the net, he took like 3 touches and slowly hit a ball. Paul got down and, no look, backhanded it off the net. There's another one that happened. Reese had it went across the box. I think he decided he wanted to shoot last second. Crossed to Ben Morris, so it's a little bit, in front of him, and he missed him. Ben Morris also played great. Didn't score, but he was effective, and that's the Ben Morris I wanted to see earlier in the year. Him moving around, making runs. Yeah, they don't result in anything for him, but, like, him making runs means the defense has to take a step back. If they have to take a step back, Dario is right there to fill that gap. If they press up on Dario, he has to play a nice little ball to Ben Morris, who has a bunch of space to now run at the net with confidence and take shots. Like, before he was taking shots and, meekly missing and being like, whatever. Now he's taking shots that are getting saved, and he's like, why did I not score that? The confidence Dario has is infectious, and we're seeing how it's just good to the team and making people want to play on the front of their feet, not in the back of their feet. And that's a team that I think, in my opinion, not to get all, like, cliche, but that's a team that represents Detroit, in my opinion, very well. On the front feet, trying to go forward, maybe not doing it the pretty way, but getting it done. That's the type of team you want to represent you, no matter the sport.
So this off week, I think, is very important. We're coming up against a tough part of the schedule when we need to do some wins. We've got Memphis, we've got Charleston. It's not going to be an easy path, and we need to win a lot of games in this to be able to have a shot at the playoffs. How are we feeling about playoff percentages?
40%.
40, okay.
40. I'll put it 40 because when you got a team that's confident and flying high, it's really hard to beat them, and that's actually what we're starting to see with DCFC is they're becoming tough to beat. And that's the thing that I actually just wanted to see from them. We knew that they were solid defensively, but earlier on in the season, they were giving them a lot of cheap goals and not having the padding to be able to withstand those cheap goals. Now, because you got Dario coming in, you got Reese playing a lot better, you got Ben playing a lot, you got the whole really attacking front playing a lot better and playing with a lot more confidence, and so you're starting to get goals to be able to pad mistakes, and now you're starting to even mitigate some of those mistakes. So when you have confidence, you're able to kind of play a little bit better. But it is a tough schedule, and it's not only a tough schedule, it's a tough schedule when you're playing most from behind because you had such a poor start to the season. So I think the hole is a little too deep right now. Is it impossible? No, but I just think the hole from the beginning of the season is a little bit too deep, too many drop points, and I just don't think that it'll happen, but it's possible.
I'm not going to go 40. I'm probably closer to like 27 or something. It's good.
Very exact.
They have 5 games coming up, 4 at home, 1 against Charleston, which will be tough. Las Vegas Lights, that has to be a win. 1 away at Birmingham Legion, who are very good, but for some reason Detroit still beats them, and I don't understand it. I'm never going to understand it. I just realize it's just not for me to understand, and that's okay. Then they have Memphis at home, and they have Miami at home. Memphis will be tough because Memphis has one of the best offenses in the league, also have one of the worst defenses, so goals will be, you need to score and you need to defend. And Miami will be tough because the last time they played Miami ended 0-0, and legitimately, I fell asleep for about 20 minutes because the ball was just being passed back. Like the Simpsons episode where they're talking about soccer, it's like he passes the ball, and he passes the ball. That was the game against Miami. No one wanted to shoot. They were like, we'll just take the point, be hot, be happy, and we'll leave. So, like, that game is going to be you have to score against them. If you do not score against them, whoever scores first will win that game. And that's just the end of it. Both teams are kind of still offensively inept in that way. So I'm a little worried about that because if you score a bunch of goals quickly and bunches, I think you have a better chance of making the playoffs because at least you'll get in there. Then you need to play better defense, so whatever. But getting to the playoffs, you need to score goals. And Detroit is still like -6 in goal and plus-minus in goal differential. So like that makes me uncertain about them trying to get into the playoff because what that tells me is when you need to score a goal, you can't. You can probably keep him from scoring on you, but when you need to score a goal to win a game, you can't. And you don't get into the playoffs by tying 6 times in a row.
I'm going to do a conditional answer because I kind of wish we were having this conversation after the Charleston match, which is what we're going to be returning to. If we beat Charleston, I feel like the quality of side that is, I feel like it's more of your 40 or even 50-50 to show that we're really a turned leaf. If we lose against Charleston, I feel like it's 20%. That tells me the quality of side we are going forward against a real test.
And that's why I said 40 is because that is going to be the real test. But I slightly disagree with Fletcher in the sense that I don't think that they can go and get the goals if they need to. I think this is a team that has the confidence to be able to attempt to go and get those goals. But again, last week we went up against a phenomenal keeper. So I think if you play the way that you played last week against Oakland, this week, a lot of those goals go in. And I think that gives us a better chance to be able to create the momentum to get into the playoffs.
Well, I would love to hear all of your feedback. dailydetroit@gmail.com. Feel free to send us more poop emojis, because apparently that's your all's favorite. 313-789-3211 on the voicemail. With that, I am Jer Stays.
And I'm Fletcher Sharpe.
And I'm Norris Howard.
Thank you so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around town.